Hello everybody, and today I'm joined by Noema Gajdos Kmecova, who is one of my former PhD students, and I'm very pleased to be with her. And we're going to talk a little bit about play in cats and recognizing play in cats and when it can become problematic. So welcome, Noema. It's lovely to see you.
Hi everyone, it's good to be here.
Yeah, and you know, your PhD was on behavioral problems in cats, the risk factors and social play. And you're sort of one of the few people in recent years who's really studied social play in cats. And that's why I wanted to have this chat with you, so that you can share a bit of your knowledge with others, because it can be a really big issue for a lot of owners to distinguish whether or not their cats are playing or whether it's a real fight. And, you know, is the cat attacking them out of play or is it true predation? And of course, cat bites can be very serious as well. You know, cats carry all sorts of bugs on their teeth, and even a small scratch can become infected. So, I mean, it's a really challenging area. And I know, because I've sort of been alongside you as you've looked into this, that, you know, a lot of the literature is quite dated, and perhaps the thinking, although brilliant at the time, as we know, science moves on. And we perhaps need to move on with some of our thinking, and you've been a good thought leader in that respect, with some of the work that I know that you'll be publishing soon, or has been published as well. So, I mean, I guess the first thing I'd like to ask you to just talk a little bit about is, can you say a little bit more about the different forms of play, so that people can appreciate that? Because people say, well, play is play, but from a scientific point of view, we think it's more than that, don't we?
Yes. First, what I would like to say, I didn't mention that play is very interesting category, because when we look at the behavioral problems, we have this aggression associated with the play, and it was interesting for me that this aggression when the cats are playing, either with the people or with other cats. There is another category, play, which should be and is supposed to be pleasurable activity. So it looks like there is a real, like a thin border between these two behaviors, and one could be really harmful either for people or for cats, and then there is this pleasurable activity. And actually, we don't have much information about from the science, from the literature, about this problem in a cat. And when we look at the play, it looks very simple at this superficial level. We tend to say that, okay, these two cats are playing because they are two cats that are doing something together. They are having some physical activity. And when it seems to us that they are playing, we say that it is a social play. So it's one category of play. And then we have these two others, locomotor play and object play. So when cat is doing something with manipulating object and it seems to us it is playful, we call it object play. And then when cat is jumping around and it seems again pleasurable to this cat, we call it locomotor play. But it really looks attractive on this superficial level to divide it into these three categories, and then we are happy that, okay, we defined, or we know what the play actually is in cat. But what we did during our research during my PhD is that we actually, and it started also with me as an owner of two cats that I've been watching, and yes, and I've seen them interacting together, but sometimes I wasn't able to say that these two cats are playing, and I was asking myself, are my cats playing, or is it more like fighting, or is it something in between? And is there something in between? Can it be something like once we are aggressive towards each other, and then next time, just a few seconds later, we are playing together? So, and it really seems to be a problem, because there is missing literature on this, missing research on this. And the problem is that when you use this superficial level classification, like object, social, and locomotor play, you actually cannot apply it to these difficult situations within your cat, probably if you have you students, if you have cats as well. So when two cats are together, can we really call it a social play only because we see two cats doing something together, having some physical activity together? So this is the problem with these contextual classification, as we call it, based on circumstances of the behaviors we see.
So that's one of the things, even in the scientific literature, people were sort of saying, well, play is when the cats or the animals seem to be being playful. You know, they've got these circular arguments of, well, intuitively we know when the cats are playing, but from a clinical behavior point of view, it's not that straightforward. Yes, there are some situations which, you know, you'd quite happily bet your house on that those cats are playing or those cats aren't playing. But there's an awful big grey area, and it's that which is the problematic for, you know, I think a lot of the clinicians and also owners who get into that situation. So you've made that distinction between what we call the social play and the object play and the solitary play, and you know, what are some of the problems beyond just sort of knowing whether or not the cats are playing with those sorts of classifications?
So can you just repeat the question again?
So you know, people have distinguished sort of solitary play, object play, and social play, and they've used these terms in the research. But there are problems with that sort of classification. I know you've explored this as part of your research, so I just wanted to share a little bit of that.
Yes. So people use, when we focus on a social play, people use different definitions. And what surprised me, that sometimes the social play was actually referring to play of a cat with a human, which actually can be a social play, because there isn't, we don't say that social must include a conspecific. So and also there was a definition of a play of a social play when two cats are playing together with a toy. So that was something I was thinking, well, is it really a social play?
Two cats playing with a toy, which is object play. I think that's the thing. And
so we are just sharing a toy. So, and there are two cats. But this highlights the problems we see, that when we see two cats doing not actually something together, but with some object, we also tend to say it's a social activity. So, and again, with the social play, there has been problems by using this common sense, as we mentioned earlier. So, and some and scientists and researchers used that in the past to say that and they actually admitted it when trying to propose some working definitions, that sometimes they were just sure that the cats are playing, so they use this common sense. And some of them called actually any activity when they were studying kittens. It's I need to say that they called each activity physical activity when there are two cats, or cat with kittens with a mother. They called it social play. So everything was called social play, even if it was something which wouldn't be called social play when we looked at it more thoroughly. So this is this social play category. And then we have these. I said locomotor play, but you said that it's actually there was also another term. It was solitary play. So we have and also there is a term self play. So these are the different terms that actually name the same thing, probably, but the definitions might be slightly different. So when we say it's a self play, the cat can play with its tail, which is quite common behavior. And then when other people looked at the locomotor play, they meant more just play in an environment, just jumping around. So it was not associated with any object or any other individual. So these are the different terms which we are using. Some researchers prefer to use locomotor play. Some of them use a focus on the fact that there is a cat which is not playing with any object or individual, so they use term solitaire play. So these are the problems we see in the literature with using the terminology, and this is something what should be like cleaned a bit to some common terminology.
Yes, I think I think the play in cats is a really good example of why, the advantages we have from the psychobiological approach that we've developed at Lincoln, because as you point out, social play was just defined very loosely on a broad context, that the cat is with another being, which could be human, it could be another cat. And if we're actually interested in the underlying mechanisms of what is going on, then clearly if the cat is treating the human as something to pounce on and attack and practice its hunting skills, that's very different to if they're playing with them like a brother or sister. Yes. In that situation. So, and the whole point of the psychobiological approach is that we think about the psychological factors, the emotional basis to the behavior, and the biological aspects, so things like the motivational aspects, what the animal is trying to achieve from it. And I know sort of as we started to look at this topic, we sort of said, well, a lot of what we consider to be play, you can think about it involved in what Panksepp called the play system, and he used cats as an example in that. We tend to talk about it more associated with affiliation and a broader range of sort of goals. And then there is that more object-related object style, where the whatever it is that is being played with is being treated as an object, which we would link with what Panksepp would call the seeking system. We might call the desire system, or terms like that. And it's important to be able to make that distinction, because from a clinical point of view, they need different treatments. If you've got a cat that is engaged in more predatory play, that sort of activity, then you'll want to redirect it into those sorts of activities. Whereas if it's treating you more like a brother or sister, then actually you're going to have to find safer ways of playing in that situation. Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned earlier, play is a pleasurable activity, so it's very self-reinforcing, and it's important mm-hmm. for owners to get that right. And so, I want to focus now just on social play a little bit. Mm-hmm. Again, I know you've highlighted some of the issues with the term social play, that, well, actually, it might just be that people can label it on the basis purely of context, but from a psychobiological perspective, you sort of said, well, the term social play is not very satisfactory. And whilst it can be used in a very broad sense, from understanding what is going on, and I think this is a really nice point, you talk about mutual social play. I just wonder if you want to say a little bit about what you mean by mutual social play, and how you would see that as different to what some people might call social play. What is mutual social play in cats? Mm-hmm. Or more broadly, about the classification of play.
Yes, as we are speaking with the students, I like to use examples from a human world and analogies, because I think that's really good thing to help us to understand the world of animals. So as we were speaking about this social play term and how it is unsatisfactory, just describing a situation of two cats being together, just imagine when you're in some group of people speaking together. And yes, so you would say you were attending a social event, but if you actually don't want to be there and you're in your thoughts, you're somewhere else, can you say that you were attending a social event? So it's likely situation in a more introvert type of people who are actually introverts, type of people who actually don't like to attend these social events. So they don't think of themselves as a social individual, and probably they would not say that they were actually in such party or whatever. So this is the problem when we use this social term. If you really are a social individual and you think of yourself like this. You attend these social activities in a reciprocal kind of way. So someone is asking you a question, you answer the question, and then another question comes to your mind. So you ask these questions to your partner in this conversation. So it is a mutual activity. It is you provide feedback to the other person you're speaking to. So this analogy I would use to explain the difference between a social play and mutual social play when we speak about cat. So we think that it's better to use this term mutual social play because it focuses on the fact that these two cats are engaged in this activity, social play activity together. So it is reciprocal. You can see that one cat is interacting with this another cat in this affiliative style. So this is all because we are speaking about social play, we are not speaking about agonism. So bearing in mind this emotional motivational classification you mentioned and this affiliation or play system that Panks has suggested, that this system is actually here within animals or people. Using this term of mutual social play really emphasizes the aspect of this activity being shared between these two and being really truly social. So this is how I would emphasize this difference between these two terms.
That's a really nice example. And I think the important thing there is, as you say, they're engaged in it together and they are reciprocal. Doesn't mean they have to be doing the same thing, but it has to be compatible at some level, because
yes,
that's the whole point in relation to it. And I know you've produced this nice figure sort of going through the classification of play, and we'll probably cut now to a screen showing that figure. So I'd just like you to talk through that figure for people, so how you see the classification of play in cats.
Yes, so what I explained now is this mutual social play, and we can see on this diagram that as we are using this idea of Panks' theory, we differentiate between this affiliation of play system and this seeking system. And we know from his theory that this seeking system can be associated and is probably about another systems and is linked with another system. So it can be, and it's likely that play system is associated as well with a seeking system. But when we're looking into mutual social play, we would differentiate it from this another system and the types of play associated with it. So that's why we have like these two first boxes with a mutual social play and then non-social play, because this play is might be oriented to object, to another animal, but this animal is likely treated as an object. So that's why we have when we look at the right side, we have under the non-social play, which we believe that is influenced more by this seeking or desire system, this object play and solitary play. So when cat is manipulating with some object, which can be prey or object, so non-living object, we would put it under this box object play. And then when cat is truly like solitary in its activity, then we would say it's a solitary play with these two different terms, which I described before. Self-play, when cat is playing with its body part, very likely the tail. And then we have this locomotor play, when cat is more playing like running around, climbing on object, but it still is it's not manipulating these objects, so it's like more activity within its environment. And this distinction between these different types of play is not just as we think it would look good, but we are actually linking it with the different possible functions. So there is when we look still on this right side, predatory play might have a function, because we still from the definition and 100-year history of study of definition, we still don't know what play actually is used for. So it's not like we are saying that this is definitely a function of this of such play, but it can be that this predatory play is about learning how to hunt. And then object manipulation could be about learning about the physical parts of the world of this cat will be surrounded for the rest of the life. And then when you look at the solitary play, when cat is manipulating with its body part, it might be learning that the part which I'm playing is actually my tail, and when I bite it more roughly, it will hurt me. So probably it's my tail. And then when we look at locomotor play, then when animal is really, and when we see this in the kittens, it's very like a very clumsy. There are clumsy activities. So cat can be falling from the different surfaces. So it might be learning about coordination in relation to this physical environment of the cat. But it's still all these activities are still about the exploring the physical environment of the animal. So learning about how to deal with it. When we look at the kittens, how to deal with it later on in life, but still it could be seen in adult animals. So it's not just associated with the kittens and young cats. So we believe that this really supports theory that these different types of play are associated with these two distinct emotional motivational systems. And when we look at the left side, we have this mutual social play, and as we said, it could be play with a human or a dog, which is a very common situation that a cat is playing with a dog. But if it's really mutual social play, and it can be reciprocal with a human or a dog, but it is a play indeed. It has these different. It has these characteristics of a play. We could speak later on about. It would make sense. It only makes sense that it serves to learn about social manipulation, either with a specific or another living creatures which these cats will come in contact in life. So I believe that this figure makes it more brings light into this classification and use of terms. But yes, it's really like it opens also the discussion for later, like future studies.
Yeah, and I think the key thing to appreciate from this figure is, as you say, it's a functional classification. It takes account of the emotional aspect, so that's why we consider it very much a sort of psychobiological approach. And whilst you can say sort of, well, self-play is often about learning, or locomotor play is about learning about coordination, or predatory play, it's possible that it's not the context that tells us what the motivation is. We have to go through a process to make those inferences about the motivation, and that's quite important, because a cat could be attacking its tail and practicing predatory play if it considers its tail in that way. So we can't just go by these superficial contexts. We have to, if we really want to understand it, we need to ask ourselves, yeah, what is it we're trying to understand? And usually we're trying to understand some underlying process, whether that be the motivation or the emotional basis. And so those bottom boxes actually tell us, they're the questions we should be asking ourselves. Are the cats trying to do this? And what is the evidence for this or against this? And that will give us a much richer insight, rather than just say, well, he's attacking his tail, that means this, and that's the problem that people have had. So thank you for going through that. In that figure that we've just seen, there is this issue of mutual social play. And one of the things which can happen in cats is that obviously one cat can be thinking, well, I'm going to engage in social play, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the other person does. And you gave that lovely example of the cocktail party, you know, where you go and you're not really enjoying it, so it's not really a social event for you. And you can have the same with cats, can't you? You can have one cat that wants to engage in social play, and the other cat that it lives with says, not now, thank you very much. And in which case, you know, we wouldn't describe that as mutual social play, but we have to think about what the motivation is. So for the different cats, and in one of them, obviously, it's trying to signal that it wants to play. The other one, it's trying to signal, I don't want to play. And so it's using a different system. You're more likely to get sort of agonistic. So if we've got sort of social play, in that situation, we could call it social from the point of view of context, but we wouldn't consider that mutual. And I think it highlights the need, as I said, for us to be more specific and not just think, again, not label the unit, the function of the unit, because that unit, if it's got 2 actors in it or 3 actors in it, it could be that 2 cats are doing social play and the poor third cat is really being picked on in that situation. I mean, do you see it possible for cats to start off perhaps engaging in mutual play and then for it to become more predatory? I mean, can they easily switch between this? Do you want to say a little bit about that for people?
Yes, it was, yes, actually, it's good to pick it up when I was speaking about the last figure. I forgot to mention that it's likely, it's nice, it's the theory, it's a hypothesis that there is this functional classification and it looks good in this figure. But in the real world, when we look at these 2 cats, we might not be able, as you said, to quickly apply this functional classification when we just based on the context, because the tricky part about the social play in cats is, as you said, that it can change quickly from something into something else. So there are very different scenarios actually. So when we look at the 2 cats which are starting some interaction, as you said, the first cat will come to the another cat and will pounce on her or on the cat. And this cat may react very differently. It can respond positively and signal continuation. So it
we have a nice figure. It's going to jump in because we have a nice figure to illustrate that.
This cat can respond with this positive feedback, and it will do this belly up posture, which we can talk about later. And maybe the first cat may again jump on this cat and they can start wrestle. So it would be something we would probably call this mutual social play when we see this reciprocality and another signs we can again speak about later on. And but there can be another scenario, and as you said, this second cat actually does not want to interact at the moment. It just wants to rest or something else. So it will signal, or it will use some other behaviors which would not be reciprocal, and it could just withdraw. So the cat may just walk away and to another room or to the resting place. But in another circumstance, or when we deal with another type of cats, and which might not be in the same social group in this household, it may react by hissing or coughing or doing these definitely agonistic behaviors, which we see when we see the agonistic relationship between the cats. So, and these are the 2, and so from the scheme we're probably looking at now, we can see that these 2 different responses again may not, in the first case, it may not be just mutual social play again and again, and then it will just stop. And in the second case, it will again, it will just stop with this interaction. It can continue into something else. So when when we have this mutual social play, it will take some time for cats to do these reciprocated behaviors. They may wrestle, they may chase. One cat, and this cat A may chase cat B, and then cat B is chasing cat A, so we can see it's reciprocal. But then one cat may stop interacting, may stop chasing this another cat, and is just and it may do this do this longer breaks within this interaction, and may just raise the paw but not actually making this physical contact with another cat, or may just sit for a long time and watch on this another cat which is trying to pounce on it or making this belly up, so it's still active. And when we don't see this reciprocality within their interaction, then we actually are not sure about this mutual social play term anymore, because it's not mutual, of course. So it may just terminate in a good scenario. So this one cat just stops interacting, and another cat will understand it. So they go separate ways and they do what they want to, but not together. But in this worst case scenario, we can see this escalation, which is very commonly described in the literature when we speak about the social play, as they call it, social play. There is a very good chance of escalating, especially when we deal with adult cats. And this escalation could mean that this one cat which still wants to be playful, so it still might be under this desire or seeking system, which we know can be about another systems, but when another cat does not want to interact, this first cat might start to chase it as it was a prey. So it is treating it like an object, and so we believe, and it probably psychobiologically, it would not be the same thing as it started to be when we saw these two cats interacting in a reciprocal kind of way. But also, this first cat can understand these withdrawal behaviors and coughing and hissing as agonistic signal, and might not understand it as just a withdrawal signal. So these two cats might actually start to fight, and we can see really agonistic behaviors we can again speak about later. But what can happen again when we can look at this arrow which comes back comes at the beginning of our scheme, that when one cat signal termination, this another cat can actually try to repeat these enticements to play. So it's like he's maybe more like a dummy cat which don't understand when the other cat is hissing at it, so it tries to again and again. So the whole circle or whole scenarios may repeat again until this first cat will understand it. And when there is no response in this cat A, again, it may understand, okay, maybe he's just too shy to tell me that he doesn't want to play, so I will start again. And then there's the chances of getting into this escalation and agonisms are getting higher when these two cats are really differently motivated, and then we can actually start to understand it also from this contextual point of view.
Thank you so much for that. When I introduced you, I said, what a good thinker you are. And if anyone was in any doubt, then just looking at this figure and listening to you there and following the various arrows, they won't be left in any doubt whatsoever, because to tease this all out is not an easy business. Once it's done, it's actually sort of fairly straightforward to appreciate what is going on. But, it's that hard thinking in the beginning. And hopefully, as I say, people can see the figure and follow the commentary and then see the sort of cycles and so really appreciate the dynamic that can happen between two cats, which can be playful or can be agonistic.
Yes.
So in the dog world, and this is something people often ask me, and I'll ask you, people talk about things like play bowels as being signals that help to clarify that what is happening is actually playful. Now, given that cats are quite heavily armed, you would expect there to be these sorts of signals, and there's some debate as to whether or not something like a play bowel is actually a meta signal. But I'm not going to go into that argument today or discussion. But are there signals you think that cats issue that help to clarify that what I'm about to do next is not, you know, intended to be harmful in that sort of way? I know that's somewhat anthropomorphic, but perhaps for most people that's an easy way. But are there signals they could look out for that cats might show beforehand that, you know, that if they see that, then that indicates playful intent?
So in a cat, there have been described something which what the researchers were calling a play phase, and it's basically described mostly by the mouth being held open a bit slightly. Maybe it might look like a smile, maybe, and it's not it's not a precursor to bite. Not all it can be, but it must not be. So we can see this mostly in kittens when they are playing. I've done this analysis of the video, so I've been watching many different cats playing, and we can actually see it in an adult cat. So this might be one signal. And then there is this belly up posture, which I mentioned before, and it's well, there were debates about use of this signal in agonistic interactions, that it might be the submissive signal. And there is a group of researchers doing the research on inter-cat interactions that believe that there is like this dominance rank hierarchy and submission hierarchy in a cat. But still, it's still a theory, and there's another group of researchers who don't really agree with them, and it's still like they think of it as more human construct we use to describe the interactions between cats. So this belly up is actually very interesting because it's probably a signal, and many researchers think it's a signal, but it's been differently used in context of play and agonism. So, and in play literature, play research literature, there is this belly up posture, which is considered to be a signal for a real or intent to play. So, and we can see this alternation of the two behaviors, this belly up, stand up posture, which can alternate. And when it is reciprocal and it's not tense, I would say, because I believe that there are different types of belly up postures. One is more relaxed, and cat may just lie and just show the belly and do this as a part of the role, like a tense with a pause. And also very important thing from my point of view is the use of ears and a tail within these belly up postures. So I think it might be very interesting to look at in future research I would like to do, of course. So this is the belly up posture, and then another signal which has been described as a signal in social interaction, in social context, but not in a play, is a tail up posture. So when a cat comes with a raised tail, and we know that it's associated with affiliative approach, and along with this as a prevention of agonism. So when one cat approaches another cat with the tail up, there's very good chance that it may go into some mutual rubbing and grooming, but it will not go into agonism very likely. This signal has not been studied again in the context of this mutual social play, and I believe that it might be interesting to look at in these interactions, because I saw this signal within these interactions.
I know with my own cats, we used to have a little cat called Poppy and the neighbour's cat Tiddles, who's a big, big bruiser, but very friendly. And Poppy and Tiddles used to get on quite well. Quite a big size difference between the two, and often Tiddles would come into the garden and then approach Poppy, keep a certain distance, and then just flop on his side and just lie there, and sort of Poppy would sit there and watching, and you would just see there sort of that lateral lie and just the tip of the tail starting to twitch a little bit, and you thought Tiddles is going to start playing soon. And the fact that as you say earlier, we use our own cats as teachers. We could make that prediction of what was coming. Poppy could make that prediction because she'd sometimes use that as a signal for her to go and jump on Tiddles. And so, clearly there are signals there that we just need to look out for, and spend the time looking at our cats and learning what the body language is. And it's clearly a rich area, I think, for us to do further research in. Yeah, as you say, because at the moment so little is actually known, and it's only by studying. Now fortunately so many people have got smartphones, they're recording their animals, so we get better chance to actually see these things and see, well, does this predict this in this situation? So so that's sort of the initiation of play, and you went through the figure to explain sort of the different outcomes. Are there any things that sort of by the other side that people should look out for to say this is not going to be a playful interaction? So what should people perhaps look out for to suggest that what's going to happen might actually be truly agonistic, a real fight coming up? Are there things that they can look out for?
Yes, so again, as there has not been a lot of research done, but there, again, we have suggestions from the authorities in a cat field, cat behavior field. So, and one of them, which repeats constantly across the literature, across different experts from the field, is that these mutual social play interactions are often silent, so the cats are not vocalizing through them, and we know that vocalization in cats, that cats together, they are not communicating by vocalization. We have this mother-cat relationship when kittens are meowing a lot, but then when the cats get older, they communicate mostly by the body language and scent. And this olfactory communication is very important, but they use the vocal communication which is really loud in a sexual context, but what precise sexual context is mostly these agonistic duels, and they actually have this term vocal duels. So when the two entire tomcats are meeting, it's very like slow interactions or very slow movements during which they are using these very loud different types of yowling and growling. So we know that this is definitely associated with agonism. So so there is an assumption that when these fights between when these interactions between cats are more likely fights than playful interactions, that they will use the vocalization. They will, as I described in this negative response for enticement to play, it can be a hiss. So when you or with your kids, your students or the owners see a lot of vocalization, this hissing, this growling, and it could be also the painful meows. Maybe it is very likely that this is not actually, these cats are actually not playing. They are vocalizing maybe painful approach of the other cats. So, and with these vocalization, also the use of claws and teeth is associated. So I think that it also in a mutual social play, cats can use the claws more roughly sometimes, and they may bite more roughly sometimes, that it may cause the pain, but it's not like that. It won't definitely end up as agonism. So when you have, and it is likely that when you have these two cats that are living, that live alone, or they live together for a longer time, that they learn how to interact also on these when these more rough like bites and scratches comes into their interaction. So I would not say it's that mutual social play must be without any like rough use of claws or rough bites, or the cats will only pet with the claws, not extracted. But if you see a lot of it, if we see a lot of this hissing, meowing, and the painful meows, like more shrieking meows, and we see that they are actually holding each other with the claws, it is very likely that it's not playful anymore, or it wasn't playful from the beginning. And another thing that there is in literature, that it's not very common thing, but as we did our study during my PhD and I analyzed the videos, we saw it actually as a probably very important thing, is the patterning of behaviors, and the probably very important pattern is the is a pause, is a break within the interaction. So it is so there is a suggestion that these playful interactions are with plenty of gaps. So like there's a frequent break there might be a frequent break. So when the cats just stop and look at each other, and then one cat starts to chase another cat. So they have these breaks. But I believe, and we believe from coming from the results of our other study, which we hope we'll publish soon, that character of these breaks, how long they are, and which behaviors they include, are important in deciding whether it is still a playful interaction or it becomes agonistic. Because, as I said, when we have these agonistic urals, these cats are inactive for a long period of time, because each movement can result in a very quick interaction, harmful interaction from another cat, and it may end up in this very rough wrestle when the fur is flying around and they are actually hurting each other and transmitting deadly diseases. So cats are very, very cautious in their agonistic interactions. So, and as we see these gaps within the playful interaction, it might be that this is the time when these cats are really calculating what's coming next. So it might be that these breaks within interactions can actually include these signals, or can be signals itself. But I think this is interesting suggestion from these professionals, and as we've seen it in our study, I believe that they will tell us something more about how to distinguish between agonism and play.
Absolutely, and I think that's a really nice point, that they've got to play safe. Literally. So you're going to have these pauses where they check and make sure that it's not getting out of control. And I think that's a really nice thing to point out. We've got another figure now looking at the sequences involved in mutual social play, which just to show people. And if you could just talk people through, before we perhaps just finish off with some sort of final thoughts as to things for people to look out for that help reassure them that what is going on is mutual social play. So you've got your two cats here, A and B. Do you want to just talk us through this figure?
So this comes from one study, which was probably one of the first ones, but it was really thorough, and it was done with the cats of different ages, starting from 8, maybe even sooner. So until 12 weeks approximately. So, and this researcher was also studying the cats and after this period. So, and she found she was also looking into sequencing of behavior. So it is really, really nice work. And from also what I watched in these when I was observing these interactions as well, there it is very likely that a playful interaction will start with one cat pouncing on another cat, and this other cat can really respond by this belly up posture, which is likely which is when it's playful and it has this affiliated intent. It's a relaxed one, as you said. The cat will just pop on the side and will show the belly and awaits the feedback and interaction from another cat. And this other cat may just stand and raise a paw and pet the cat, and then it may alternate these two behaviors, and very likely, but it's not in the figure, but as it has not been really described by this author, they may actually also wrestle, because when they know each other good and they've been living together for a longer time, they know how to use claws, as I said, and then they know how to inhibit the bite. So these, and there are other behaviors as well, like this face-off posture, when a cat is just sitting close to other cat, and they also raise the paw, and they very often they may mirror the behavior, so they do the same thing. So, and there are many pets, so they or cats, they may use the claws as well. And so this we can see this alternation of behavior, these poses, as we said, of inactivity or sitting next to each other and looking at each other and raising the paws, and just maybe they will just slightly touch, and they may not touch actually. It's really funny to watch sometimes. And then when we see a termination, it would very likely be terminated by a chasing behavior. This chasing behavior can actually be a part of the pout sequence, but it was described as the termination behavior when and here we comes to the point that that this one cat may actually not want to interact anymore, so it just escapes. It's not when it does not reciprocate this behavior, it just escapes from the interaction. And this second cat may interact may react differently on this withdrawal, as we said before. So chasing is one of the behaviors which may terminate the play. Logically, when I want to escape from social interaction, I might actually as well escape from it, like saying that there's a bus coming, I need to attend to, or something like that. So again, analogy from our world is quite helpful, I would say. And there is also another behavior which you can see is the arching of a back, and also is a very common cat posture we can see. And it is a behavior which can be used in this mutual social play, but again, it's interesting that this is a behavior which is very often used in agonistic context, and that's why it's not very surprising that it may be one of the behaviors which may end this interaction. It may be used as a part of the bout, but when the motivation of the second cat is really like it's not very strong to interact anymore, it may understand this as a signal for probably upcoming agonism. So it's not, as I said, it's not surprising that this pattern might be finishing once, so it terminates the play.
And I think this sort of brings us back to the beginning, which is sort of this idea that you mentioned about the chasing, and there's so many opportunities within social play that actually it can break down as a mutual interaction. So for example, a number of the cases that we see, you've got, the cats are playing because they're chasing each other, and then when you start to ask somebody about the history, you find that Harry is always chasing Sally and Sally is never chasing Harry, and that's not a game for poor old Sally, who's always being chased. So it's a really nice and comprehensive, I think, review of sort of helping people to understand play and playful interactions, and also the sort of when it might break down and the different ways that it can break down. So thank you very much for taking us through all of that. Are there any final thoughts that you want to add at this point, just before we finish?
Well, I would say that we need to be very cautious when we look at the two cats interacting, and not jumping to conclusion that oh, they are playing together very often. How can you say that they are playing? So we still need to think about that when someone who we know has 2 cats, 3 cats, 10 cats. We know that keeping many cats together in a restricted environment, especially in indoor environment, we know from research now that it's very challenging from a welfare point of view. And I would say the more cats, the more welfare problems we should avoid stemming from this household. So, and these inter-cat interactions, these are the things that are very noticeable by the owners. It's a thing that they see. Also, they might not see, and there's also research about that. It is very difficult to see this covered aggression within cats when they just stare at each other. We might not notice this in cats, but we may see this interaction. We may interpret as a playing, and that's when all the lie and fallacy comes from. I would say that we think many times, and often we think that these cats are playing when they actually might not be playing. I'm not saying that that each 2 cats are probably fighting together. There is a very good chance that cats are playing many times, or 80, maybe 100% of times when they are interacting together. But I would say from what we know about the social interaction, social life of cats, how they evolved from the solitary species, mostly solitary species, they didn't come a long way from the domestication process. So we can say that there is very good chance that they are always playing together. I would say that it is more like that we would be right if we would say that they might be playing a little time of the interaction, but the most of the time, or bigger part of the whole interaction is about hesitating probably, and maybe also about agonism. So my concluding comment would be that the older the cats are, the more cautious we need to be when interpreting and judging their interactions. So and this I'm saying only because I love cats, and I want owners and students and everyone to be aware of these situations, that just don't jump into conclusion about cats interacting together, because they may be dealing with some problems together, and we should look into it, and then very likely they might need some intervention from the professionals from the field, so we can make their life together easier. I'm not saying again that we cannot keep few cats together in one household. They may go on well together, but we need to provide the good environment for them to get on together. And by judging about each interaction that is play, we are not doing it. So we need to be really careful and to think about things. It's always good to think, mostly good to think about things we see.
Yeah, I mean, we're always learning. That's one of the joys of this line of business. And one of the things we always have to be aware of, we're always sort of tempted to see what we want to see. And, you know, part of being a scientist is to step back from that. And I would say anybody, even if you're not concerned about your cats, video your cats playing, if you've got multiple cats, and then stop, you know, look and listen, as you've said, listen out for those vocalizations, look carefully, how mutual is it? and ask yourself, you know, would you be enjoying in that situation? I think, you know, a little bit of anthropomorphism can actually be very instructive for an awful lot of owners if they just take the time to stop, look and listen. And as I said, with smartphones, it's so easy to video these. And I know that you and I, anybody videoing their cats, we're always pleased to receive their videos to look at if we can use them in teaching and helping people, because it is a really big problem. And, you know, thank you for sharing your insights and you know, your knowledge of this topic to really help people better understand their cats. So thanks a lot, Noema, and I'll catch up with you again soon. Take care.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor to be here.